Hey everyone, today I'm summarizing The House at Riverton by Kate Morton. It's not a review, just my take, and includes major spoilers. Link to the book is in the description. The story is narrated by Grace Reeves, who is 98 years old. She was invited by a filmmaker named Ursula, who is making a film about what happened at Riverton. Ursula wanted to get Grace's opinion since Grace worked as a housemaid at Riverton when she was young. Here's what happened at Riverton, based on Grace's memories and flashbacks. Grace arrived at Riverton at the age of 14. A few months into her service, she met the children of Mr. Frederick Emmeline, Hannah, and David. David is the eldest, and Emmeline is the youngest. Typically, just the three of them played together, but during one Christmas vacation, they had a companion, Robbie Hunter, a friend of David's. He briefly stayed at Riverton and played with the siblings, but Hannah didn't join most of the time. She wasn't happy that Robbie was with them because it meant they couldn't play the game. The game was an adventure game the siblings created, and it could only be played by three. When war broke out, David and Robbie decided to go. Another boy who went to war was Alfred, a houseboy who liked Grace. After the war, David did not return, as he had been killed. Alfred was able to return, but he was different. Physically, he was fine, but he was deeply traumatized by the war. Lord Ashbury had two sons, Major Jonathan and Mr. Frederick. Major Jonathan was also killed during the war, and a few days after his death, Lord Ashbury passed away as well. This meant that Riverton now needed a new owner. According to the will, it would be given to Major Jonathan's child. His wife Jemima was still pregnant at the time. If she gave birth to a boy, the baby would become the new heir. However, if it was a girl, the heir would be Major Jonathan's brother, Mr. Frederick. Jemima gave birth to a baby girl, so Mr. Frederick and his daughters, Hannah and Emmeline, became the residents of Riverton. At one party at Riverton, Hannah met Teddy Luxton, the son of a wealthy banker. Hannah wanted to be an independent woman, live on her own, and get a job, but she realized this wouldn't be possible, as her father wouldn't allow it. She was then led to believe, by Lady Violet, that marriage would give her independence from her father. She married Teddy Luxton and moved to London with him. Mr. Frederick was against the marriage, as he believed the Luxtons had betrayed his business, but Hannah was stubborn and left Riverton without her father's approval. While living in London with Teddy, Hannah realized that married life was not what she expected. Being simply a politician's wife was boring, so she was thrilled when Robbie Hunter, David's friend, visited her at home. He came to give Hannah the booklet she had given David before he went to war. During that visit, Robbie met Teddy, Deborah, Teddy's sister, and Emmeline, who was currently living with them in London. Robbie visited Hannah a few more times after that. To avoid drawing attention, he started going out with Emmeline. Robbie and Hannah ended up having an affair, using Emmeline as a way to secretly meet. Emmeline was unaware. Robbie would pick up Emmeline for a party, and while doing so, he would secretly hand a note to Hannah, indicating the time and place of their meetup. The only person who knew about this was Grace. Hannah and Robbie's affair went on for a long time until Debbie eventually caught them. One of the housemaids claimed to have seen Hannah in an unusual place, and other servants noticed part of a note in the trash. When Deborah found out, she spoke to Hannah and warned her. Hannah then wrote a letter to Robbie, ending the affair, and asked Grace to deliver it. Mr. Frederick later died in an accident at Riverton, though there were rumors it wasn't an accident, but suicide. He had been unwell and deeply troubled in recent months after losing Hannah and his business. After his death, Teddy decided to move to Riverton. Since Mr. Frederick had not been able to maintain the estate well, Teddy began renovations. Once the upgrades were complete, he decided to host a party, and Hannah offered to help. Teddy was pleased to see Hannah working with Deborah to plan the event, but it turned out Hannah had her own plan. While Grace was dressing Hannah for the party, she noticed that Hannah seemed uneasy and nervous. Before the party began, Hannah gave Grace a locket as a gift. Hannah's plan that night was to run away with Robbie. When Grace went to her quarters, she found two letters on her bed. One was for her, and the other was for Emmeline. The letter addressed to her was written in shorthand. Grace couldn't actually read shorthand. She had only pretended she could in the past to hide the fact that she had bought a book, which was not allowed for servants. Since she couldn't read her own letter, she decided to read Emmeline's instead. In that letter, it was mentioned that Hannah was about to commit suicide. Panicked, Grace tried to stop her. She went to look for Emmeline, believing Emmeline might be able to help prevent Hannah from going through with it. Grace and Emmeline went to the lake and found Hannah there. Hannah explained that the letter was just part of a game. Emmeline believed her at first, but just as they were about to leave the lake, she saw Robbie. She tried to convince Robbie to go back to the party, but soon realized what was truly going on. Hannah and Robbie were planning to run away together, and Emmeline understood they had been using her to secretly meet all along. There was a handgun in the suitcase that Emmeline had borrowed. She took it and pointed it at Hannah and Robbie, who were preparing to leave. Suddenly, there were fireworks, which startled Robbie. He was still traumatized from the war. Emmeline couldn't pull the trigger, and Robbie, in a moment of desperation, suggested that they kill Emmeline so they could go through with their plan, but Hannah refused. All three of them were struggling with the gun, and in the end, Hannah pulled the trigger and killed Robbie. Emmeline recovered first and instructed Grace to return the suitcase. When Teddy arrived, Emmeline told him that Robbie had killed himself. There was an investigation, but Hannah and Emmeline were spared, as Teddy claimed they were deeply traumatized by what they had witnessed. Hannah, however, was the one most affected. She became pale and withdrawn. Emmeline, on the other hand, was often seen partying in London, but it was her way of masking the grief. Emmeline later died in a car crash, with bottles of brandy found in the vehicle. Teddy tried to keep this from Hannah, who was pregnant and close to giving birth, but Hannah already knew Grace had tried to tell her. Hannah died while giving birth to a baby girl, who was named Florence. During labor, Hannah screamed at Grace, blaming her and saying it was all her fault. At the time, Grace didn't understand what she meant, but later, she realized it truly had become her fault because of the letter. The letter Hannah had written in shorthand contained instructions and the truth about what she was planning to do. But Grace had lied about being able to read shorthand. The letter specifically mentioned keeping Emmeline away from the lake, but unknowingly, Grace had done the opposite. After Hannah's death, Teddy figured out the baby's real father just by looking at the child's face. They sent the baby to the US to live with Jemima. Without Hannah, Grace eventually decided to leave Riverton. Present. At 98, with her daughter and grandson by her side, Grace died of old age. Before her death, she recorded tapes narrating the events at Riverton and left them to Marcus. As for Ursula, she was able to finish the film. She revealed that she is a distant relative of Hannah and Emmeline. Her grandmother's name was Florence, Hannah's daughter who had been sent to the US. Other important details. Grace is actually the half-sister of Hannah and Emmeline, though no one knows it. She figured it out after her mother's death when she saw Mr. Frederick. After putting together the details, she concluded that Mr. Frederick was her father, but she never told anyone. Grace fell in love with Alfred, who once proposed to her. She initially said yes, but later took it back when she realized Alfred wanted her to quit being Hannah's lady's maid. Alfred eventually married Lucy Starling, Mr. Frederick's secretary. However, Alfred and Grace crossed paths again later in life. They were no longer a perfect match, but they lived together. That's it for the summary. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, grab the book using the link in my bio. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other videos. See you next time.